Let's go. Is it starting? Should be starting. Hi, Beth. Come on, camera. Where are you at? Good. All right. Can you guys hear me well? I'm just making a quick test because I'm using my other headset and I'm not sure if that's working well. The image looks very... Is it just my connection here? Sound is fine. Thank you. How's the image? Is it good quality or does it seem to be a little uh, pixelized and not as good? Kind of strange. I don't know if it's just my setting. Image looks clear. Okay, good. Thank you. Welcome to today's practice Q&A. Making a test with the Bluetooth headset because I think I figured out the problem I had before, which had kind of two microphones working at the same time. Yes, Jane, it's darker because there's no sun outside. Let me actually turn on this extra light. Where are you here? Up. That should make it a little brighter. But yeah, there's cloudy day, which is fairly rare here in Cabo. Let's see if I can move that. Yeah, that's a little off. Not sure why. Move forward. There we go. Good. So today I decided that we were gonna chat a little bit more together so we can have a bit of a Q&A to answer your questions about set 3 in general, movement in particular, and we can do a practice of the whole form as well so that we don't forget everything we did so far. But to have a bit more of an chit-chat interaction together so that it's more lively. Let's start actually with the practice of the form itself so that this way we have a bit more chi moving and that you can remember the question you had about movements because we'll be doing them. So, feet parallel, shoulder width apart, naturally just rocking yourself front and back, finding the central spot, bringing our weight at the center of our feet. Allowing the knees to be not completely straight, just slightly bent, just finding this elasticity through the legs, playing the pelvis like for sitting on the edge of a table or on the edge of a chair or a bench. Finding the abdominal breathing settling in. Feeling the ripple coming from the sacrum through the spine all the way up to the top of the head. And then coming back down. That's one. Okay. Good. And we'll gently bring our hands crossing the fingers together, palm up. Inhaling, allowing the palm to rise. Opening the shoulder well, sinking the shoulder blade as we rotate the palm up to keep the shoulder low as we stretch the arm upward. And then turning the palm, sinking the palm, pushing the chi down through the body back into the lower dantian. Gently rotating the palm, feeling the connection of that movement with the sacrum, the rising through the spine as we start to go up, the opening of the shoulders, the rising of the arm connecting to heaven, and then the turning of the palm, allowing the chi to sink through the body back into the lower abdomen. Inhaling up. Exhale down. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Expanding the chest. Inhaling. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Stepping forward. Inhale. And stepping back. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Blooming lotus flower. Reaching up to the sky. Pulling the chi down through the body into the bone marrow. Inhale. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Looking at the setting sun. Inhale. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. And one more. Inhale. Exhale. Pointing the needle at the bottom of the seat. Inhale as you raise your hand. Exhale, pointing down, sinking the chi underneath. Inhale. Exhale. In, out. In, out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Opening heaven and earth. Inhale. Exhale. In, out. Inhale. Exhale. Punching with inner strength. Inhale. Exhale. In, out. One more each side. Palms together. Inhale, bending to the left. Exhale to the right. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Weight back to the center, opening the wings and fly away. Inhale. Exhale. In, out. Back to the center. Inhale. Exhale. Towards the right. Inhale. Exhale. Back to the center. And one more time to the left. Inhale. Exhale. Gathering the ball. Inhale. While the horses part mane. Exhale. In. Out. In. Out. In. Out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Feet parallel, bringing the palm on the inhale on both sides. Up, palm face forward, exhale, push. Inhale, exhale. In, out. In, out. One more, inhale, exhale. Palm on top of each other, massaging the lower abdomen. Inhale, exhale. In, out. In, out. In, out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. Arms separate, come down to the side. Gathering the fresh chi and releasing the used. In, out. In, out. One more each side. Cleaning up the meridians. Inhale. Exhale. In, out. One more. Inhale. Exhale. macrocosmic orbit. Inhale, exhale. In, out. One more. Inhale, exhale, and finishing up with an exhale down the left leg in order to jump and feel happiness. Inhale, exhale. Inhale, exhale. In, out. One more. Out. Up. Pushing the palm and calming the chin. Exhale. In, out. In, out. And one more. Inhale, exhale. Taking a moment to enjoy the effect of the movements we just did. And rubbing the palms together. Good. Excellent. How are you guys feeling after this little warm-up practice? Oh, not really a warm-up, but a warming up of this Q&A. I'll give you guys a minute to write down your comments or questions. I'll fill up my little glass of ginger with hot water and I'll be right with you. I think there's a little bit of delay, so it might be not quite as fluid as I was hoping for the Q&A, but we'll see. Maybe it's just my video feed that's a little slower because the computer is both sending and receiving at the same time. Let's see. So any question on set 3, on any of the movement? Feeling good, getting a little more fluid with the baby elephant movement. Excellent. With practice, everything gets easier. The more we play with them, the softer they become. Blooming lotus flower. Will you say a little more about getting the chi into the bone marrow? Yes. So in the blooming lotus flower, as we reach up, connecting with heaven, pulling the chi back down, we sink through the body, but we also have this sensation of it kind of penetrating deeper and deeper towards the core of the body. And the connection with the bone marrow happens specifically, let's see if you can see here. Yes. So specifically when we touch the palm on the legs, because we align the Laogong point with spleen 10, Shui Hai, the ocean of Qi, which is one point that stimulates the production of the blood in the bone marrow. So as we bring our hands on top of it, this is where we really kind of make this connection sinking deeper and feeling that link with the bone marrow directly. So the idea of, if we take the idea a lotus flower that's floating on top of the water, the roots go deep into the mud underneath where it gathers its energy from the earth, it feeds itself, rises up, become the flower that's blooming, and allow its perfume to go and fill up the air. While at the same time, the flower and the leaf receive the energy warmth from the sun, gathering it, sinking it through, and sending its effect all the way down into its roots as well. So as we're doing it, we have this image of the flower that's rising and connecting to heaven, and feeding itself both from the earth and from the light of the sun, and warming itself with the light, because sometimes the water can be a bit cooler, and getting this connection. And for us, as we grab this chi and let it sink, the positioning of the hand will help to stimulate the connection of the blood and the bone marrow as we're doing it. Very dynamic set, isn't it? Indeed, Alex, it is. It's very interesting. Yeah, because of its connection towards heaven, heaven, the sky, regardless how you want to call it. Because the energy coming down is more yang, we get this aspect of of a stronger dynamism. It wakes up the metabolism, it makes us move and connects in a different way. And all first 7 movement basically are to be able to grasp more of the energy from the sky, letting it pass through us and activate it into our body. So this helps to have a more dynamic perception of our body, of the movement. As newcomer, thanks for your instruction. My pleasure, AJ. Are there video you suggest to start learning the basic movement vocabulary? That's a good question. I don't think I have a video where I speak about specifically the vocabulary. Usually when I touch on something new, I kind of explain it during the class. So if you look back at all of the movements, or all the video that I have that are titled Taiji Qigong Shibashi Set 3, you'll see from the beginning the explanation of all the different movements, and there you'll be able to understand a little bit more as I explain some of the deeper concepts. It's true that it's a bit of an issue for a newcomer to kind of get used to all of the vocabulary at first. I would say don't worry too much about it. Start by following the movement, starting to move, observe what you're feeling in your body, adapt a little bit some of the element of the anatomy, the breathing, as best as you can. And as you'll start to practice, things will make more and more sense. A lot of the vocabulary is there to try to help people grasp a certain intellectual concept of sensation that might be completely new as you're practicing. So it's not that the theoretical vocabulary is not interesting. It's just a way for us to be able to exchange afterwards based on certain sensation and certain area of the body that don't quite fit the more Western anatomy standard, although there's more and more understanding between the two approach of Chinese medicine and the poetical way the Chinese explain things versus the more modern scientific way. So as I'm teaching it, usually I try to bring the link between all of that. So hopefully you'll be able to find quite a bit of the answer about this if you go back through the whole set 3 series of video and listen to it again if you haven't, or the first time if you haven't listened to it. You're welcome. Yeah. So, yeah, essentially just start with the movements, practice, try to adapt, um, find the coordination between upper and lower body and the breath. This is really kind of the first layer to work on, because the softer your movement will become, or the more coordinated your movement will become, the easier it will be to follow the breathing, and then everything else will start to fall into place easier and easier with time. If you're already sensitive to the perception of chi, then you can start to play with it a little bit more. But if it's not something in your current perception, don't worry about it. It will come as you practice. You'll also start to get health benefits even if you don't fully understand what I'm saying. I have a tendency to explain into a lot of details because I often have acupuncturists or a long-term practitioner of other system, so I allow myself to go a little deeper. These classes are not 100% for beginners, but at the same time, for somebody who's completely new to it, start to hear a little bit more the different specific wordings that we're using, and things will start to grow on you as you develop your practice. It would be good to hear your explanation of the drawing forward of the unweighted leg in the movement that required this. You have more weight lift than I do most time. I'm not sure I fully understand your question, Jane. So let me read that again. Good to hear your explanation on the drawing forward of the unweighted leg. So are you talking about a movement like pointing the needle at the bottom of the C where the front leg is empty and it just kind of lifts before the big toe touches the ground? Is that what you're asking about? I just want to make sure I understand your question. Yes. Okay. So as we are shifting our weight, I'll use my left leg just to demonstrate this part. As I'm bringing my weight to my right side, my hips slightly bent, my knee is slightly bent, so I end up being up here ready. And so my leg is extended. Here I'm still touching the ground, but there'll be just a moment where the leg lifts, which is just before I begin my exhale. And the reason I do that is so that the moment I start my exhale, the moment my big toe touches the ground, it's almost like a lightning rod, which helps the chi go back down. One of the reasons also that I'm lifting is because if I leave my foot here, let me show you my sexy knee right here. If I keep my foot here while my leg is extended and I then just bend, this leg will have a tendency to kind of bend its knee as well, because as I'm going down, the feet are a little closer and I would have to either try to slide my foot out to end up in the right position. So while I'm up, if I simply lift my foot about the same distance as I'm going to bend this knee. So that requires a bit of practice to find your distancing. But as I'm doing this, lifting here, I'm simply bending down so my toe land at the right spot, and then my legs stay straight, so that I don't end up being here and just doing this and then bending both knees. I want my extended leg to be open, to be as relaxed as possible, which allow for the flow of blood and chi to be free as I'm allowing the chi to sink downward, versus if I'm here, then my leg, the connection is not quite the same. Even though my leg is empty, it doesn't feel that same fluidity as if my foot is elongated, my knee is straight. So again, as I'm doing this, I'll be here with the rising of the chi. Naturally, it makes it easier to lift. And then as I'm about to go down, I'm not letting my leg go down. I'm bending my supportive leg, which will then land and allow this downward of the chi happening. Same thing on the other side. I'm inhaling the rising of the chi through the body, follow the movement which naturally lift my foot. And then at pointing the toe, I'm bending, exhaling, which allow me to keep this leg straight as I'm letting the chi flow downward. Inhale, exhale. So if you're not bending much, your leg will be a little closer and you'll have a smaller movement. It's not, the essential is not to have a very wide stance and trying to be very, young martial artists who try to do the split as they're doing any kind of movement. The idea is just to find the harmonious space so that your legs remain elongated as you're doing the movement. So if you stay a little higher, the step or the positioning of the foot will be closer. If you're able to go a little lower to have a bit more support or a bit stronger angle on your supportive leg, then the leg will be a little further out. Taiji Qigong Shibashi is all about finding the harmony within the body. So this is one of the tricky aspects to understand. It took me a few years before I realized that's how everything was working together and why we were doing it this way. So I'm kind of trying to help you guys understand this a little better. So again, the lifting happens naturally with the rising of the chi, since the leg is empty, up. Then the sinking naturally comes down from how low I'll be sinking to connect through the feet. Wasn't understanding the rising chi well. Now it's working. Excellent. Let's see. In the final movement of set 3, as arm reach above the head, is there more of a connection to the sky than the final movement of 1 and 2? Or all three are equal? How much do they connect upward? Okay, good question, Beth. So what's the difference between set 1, last movement, set 2, and set 3? So as far as the sensation of chi, yes, set 3 will have a much stronger connection up that brings it through, and the sinking will be a bit more intense if you develop your chi up to that perspective. But then again, once the connection of the chi is strong and present, you also feel this connection here, even if it's not quite as rising through the body, it's still very present and you feel this opening. I would say the main difference, generally speaking, between set 1, 2, and 3 is that set 1, the movement will help you to feel a little bit more the movement of chi through your body. Set 2 will help you to focus a little bit more into the earth, where here I have this downward and allow the earth to respond more intensely and sink it. And where set 3, we have more of a heaven connection, sinking it through the body. So even though there's a connection to the earth, because it limits through the central axis, the feeling is different than if I allow the earth to rise all the way around in order to welcome heaven. So the three of them have slightly different flavor. And at the beginning, as we develop our skills, they will feel more different. But then gradually that difference will start to not mean as much. And what I mean by that is the stronger your connection between heaven and earth, you can still get the same connection towards heaven here as you would with this one. But it doesn't quite feel the same. So there's still difference, but they're more nuanced. At first, the difference are big because our connection is not permanent. So when we focus more on an area, we feel more this area. Sorry, I'm gonna close the door. There's a little bit of noise outside. So at first, the difference shows we feel it more because we're not as strongly connected all the time. But as this central axis becomes stronger and stronger, the nuances between the two um, are not quite as present. I feel like I repeated myself a few times, but hopefully that was clear. Love the adoption of the term baby elephant movement. Yeah, it's a good way of playing with that. Good. Excellent. Glad it makes sense. I'm not always sure if I make sense when I explain things, so it's good to see that you guys understand my senselessness. Hmm, good. Hmm. Yes, very good point. Um, so what Beth was responding to Lena, I love the image of the baby elephant. It brings me joy, and I think that helps me to do it more fluidly. That's why there are images suggested at first with the practice of Taiji Qigong Shibashi. The image are there first to allow us not to overthink about the movement and not to be distracted by thinking about something else as well. So image are a little bit like a placeholder until we reach the point where we can simply feel the effect of the chi through the body. Using an image makes it a little easier for our mind to stay focused on the task at hand. The image that are suggested are just that, a suggestion. Um, Feeling happiness, jumping, being happy. The image I suggest of, jumping of joy, like if you're seeing somebody you haven't seen for a while. The image elephant that's just, big elephant bouncing out is perfect as well. It brings this happy sensation inside, and it also gives us this fluidity in something that might feel awkward at first. Jumping and walking as we move our arms greatly to the side is not something we usually allow ourselves to do. We should, but we don't usually allow ourselves to do that. So doing it is a good thing. And having an image that allows us to feel this roundness of a baby elephant walking around, gives us more fluidity rather than trying to do it on a military type of walking. That would not make much sense to try to do that in a Qigong system. But, some people might have to do it this way a little bit at first so that they learn to soften up and makes it better. But if they have an image that bring them towards something softer, that's going to be useful. Hola, Ana Maria. Gracias. Saludo. So these idea of using image, once we start to feel the sensation, the softness, the movement of the chi, you'll notice that the image kind of disappear and or becomes us. So rather than imagining this image out there, we become this image, we become this sensation. And so it's the feeling that's inside the body that's essential. Once we have the feeling, we can get rid of the image, or we can use it, or we can allow the image to become a movie and transform itself. It doesn't really matter anymore. The essential part is really to get this physical sensation. Hmm. Excellent. Very good discussion. Nice. Hi, Roberto. When does the inhale start? When we reach to liver 3 movement, searching the needle. So, um, up. Within this one, there's a little bit of floatiness as we switch. So here, as I exhale, I finish my exhale. I just by straightening my body and coming back up, there's already a very faint beginning of the inhale. But the strength of the inhale will happen the moment my foot touches the ground, which is the moment my palm really turns towards heaven. And this is where the full strength of the inhale really starts. The same way here, it finishes or becomes very thin as my foot is lifted off the ground. And the exhale start a little bit as I'm going down, but really force the moment my foot touches, the moment the finger down, and the moment I'm seated on my leg. So light beginning of the inhale, strong inhale, light finish of the inhale, light beginning of the exhale, strong exhale, light exhale, light inhale, strong inhale, light inhale, light exhale, strong exhale, light exhale, light inhale, stronger, etc. So the breath is not, always just full one or full the other. There's the slight expansion, the bigger part, the slower part, just like a wave, basically. So following it and following how the movement of the body are guiding your breathing. When we're a little bit more down, a little bit more compressed, as soon as we start to go back up, the breathing starts as well. It creates a little bit more of the intra-abdominal pressure, so we're sure to come back up. Let me place myself this way. So come back up in one piece and not be lifting and compressing where I wouldn't have any room to breathe if I have this tension in my lumbar area. So as I'm here and I inhale, my back is actually filling up, and the straightening of the spine is part of what helps me open. Here, the opening of the ribs help me to have this movement. And then as I start my exhale, everything will naturally compress a little bit like an accordion that's moving around. So it becomes much more organic rather than a intellectual moment as when do I inhale, when do I exhale. Feeling it through the movement really start to make sense. And it's through practice, gradually feeling it. At first, we need to have these, how do you call that? Points along the way that we say, okay, this is when we start, this is where we end. And then gradually you'll be able to really feel it more organically. Because from coming up, I have a strong chi sensation in the sword finger. Yes, but you have to kind of let it go. So as I'm coming here and pointing down and allowing the chi to penetrate into the ground, I want to gradually release it and be able to go up and reach. And here's really the stronger rising through the body. So what I mean by that is I don't want to send the energy down into the ground and then pull it back to me. So if I'm pushing down and pulling it back, then I'm not really releasing. The movement is really a movement that releases the chi into the ground far, and then as I go up, the clean chi through the earth is rising back up through my body. And what I'm saying might not be related to the sensation you have. I'm just kind of giving out in case this is what you're talking about. So as I'm pushing down here, I want to, almost like if I sending something out and I'm releasing it. So that when I come back here, that's why, so I'm not pushing the chi through my foot, but I'm sending it in front of my toe, which will help the chi from all the leg to bring it down. And when I go back, leave it more in front so that I can pull the fresh chi from under my body and move into the other side, sending it there. and then bring it back up, and so on and so forth. So I hope this makes sense to you as well. As I said, it might not be what you were feeling, but just in case, so that it's a little better. Yeah, good. So Jane was asking, does the baby elephant end at the same spot it started? It should be. So if the steps are about the same, you want to start. So if I'm starting straight in front of the camera, I have my jumping 1, 2, 3, jumping 1, 2, 3. I should land more or less on the same spot. Sometimes our stepping are not quite the same, so with practice, we'll be able to adjust that and try to come back as much as possible on the same spot. But we're not gonna, mark an X and make sure you come back and make you lose point in your competition because you're not at the right spot. It wouldn't make sense in Qigong even if people are doing that. um, Good. Great. I'm glad you enjoyed that explanation for the sword finger. Right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for participating in this Q&A and practice of set 3 and of sticking around so long for practicing set 3 since the beginning for most of you. Very happy that you enjoy the class and that we can have this interaction. Um, Here, question for those of you who are live now and those of you who are watching it on the replay. Would um, this type of setup of Q&A be more interesting if we were doing it on Zoom? So maybe have limited space, 20-ish people, small fee, not too much, but just to have more of a direct interaction and not just me explaining things along, but seeing you guys, how you're moving, giving some feedback. For those of you who are in the teacher training, that's already what we do. So I don't think that might be that useful to add this on top of everything else you're already doing. But for those of you who are not in the teacher training, who would like to get a little bit of feedback, I think Zoom is really becoming an amazing tool. Well, is an amazing tool, and we learn more and more how to use it in great ways and how it can be useful for teacher training or even just regular training and practice. Not to have only a video, but to get the feedback, since this is really what makes Qigong functioning better, is to get support from a teacher, feedback from people who can guide you a little bit, fine tune what you're doing so that things increase and you feel it stronger. So I'll leave this idea up in the air for now. See what people think about it. And that might be interesting, maybe once a month, to give a little more support to those who want um, to go deeper. A little bit scary. It's good to work on things that feel scary for us. The question is, why would it be scary? Scary because other people would see you? We're all learning. I made tons of mistakes before I got a little better. So, and hopefully a little better, but I know I'm still making a lot of mistake. And when I'll watch these video in 10 years from now, I'll be, ooh, yeah, that could have been a lot better. And working together is also a great way to get different perspective, having people express a little bit more of their own experience. The live chat is already good because otherwise I would just be talking to myself. But with Zoom, we can actually interact a little bit more amongst each other, and people can explain their own paths, their own background, how things, certain roadblocks that they had in their own training, and how they overcame it. My way of doing things is definitely not the only way. There's tons of people who do that, and tons of people who do things a lot better than I do. So having others bringing their perspective, which might feel more relatable with someone else's experience than necessarily my own, would bring this this aspect. Good. Um, Even if it was as a joke, there's people who feel it this way, so it's a good thing that it's being said. Good. All right. So once again, thank you everyone. Uh, very happy to have this little chat practice, and it's good to see where the questions are, what kind of movement seems to be a little more complex, and how to improve them. And I'll be seeing you all on Wednesday, because these classes are Monday and Wednesday. So we'll see you on Wednesday, and I'm not sure what we'll do yet. I have to think about it and figure out how we're gonna play. All right. Have a great day, great evening, and see you soon. Bye.